So a new Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer was released at E3 2019 during Square Enix's press conference. And while the overall reaction to it has been very positive, there exists a group of people who found certain parts of the trailer to be, well, lacking. Yes, I'm of course referring to Tifa's redesign and why I personally have an issue with it, as well as address some of the comments made to people like me who have issue with said design. So with that said, let's get into it. I'll start off by talking about how Tifa was presented in the original Final Fantasy VII compared to how she is right now in the remake. And in the original game, Tifa was very sexualized, which is immediately evident by just looking at her appearance. In terms of character design, she is shown wearing an incredibly short miniskirt revealing her slender legs, and wearing a white tank top, both of which are very skin tight, which conform to the body parts that they cover, with the tight tank top conforming to her very large breasts. And it's ultimately how frequently the developers focus on these physical aspects of her character throughout the game that lets you know just how sexualized they wanted this character to be. Examples of this include her victory animation after a battle, where she stretches and puffs out her chest, which is clearly done to draw attention to her breasts. Then there are some of the FMVs that feature Tifa where it looks like her boobs have a mind of their own. I mean, look at this. You cannot look at this and tell me with a straight face and say that the developers never intended for her to be sexualized. There's even a scene where a character literally calls her boobs. And it is for these reasons that I feel that Tifa is a very sexualized character. And with the social norms being drastically different now than when it was when the original Final Fantasy VII released, many fans of her sexualization, including myself, were afraid she would be toned down. And after looking at her redesign, I can say that we were right to be fearful. Now that I feel that I've proven that Tifa was heavily sexualized in the original Final Fantasy VII, I want to bring up many of the points that people bring up in defense of this new design and why I personally disagree with them. The first comment I'm going to bring up that people make in defense of Tifa's new redesign is that Tifa hasn't always been a sexualized character and that it's been changing with each game she's been in. And I gotta say that that statement is completely false. From games like Eargeist, where Tifa retains much of her original outfit in iconic wind animation after a battle, to more recent games at the time of this recording like The City of Final Fantasy and T. Some people will argue that since Square Enix didn't develop these games themselves, that this doesn't count. But what a lot of people are forgetting is that Square Enix owns the characters, and that these companies have to get approval from Square before they make any changes. And the fact that they were okay with keeping Tifa sexualized that way like she was in the original game says a lot on its own. And I would also add that Square Enix themselves developed games featuring Tifa after the original where she is still very sexualized, such as the original The City of Final Fantasy. And I want to show a cutscene where a character who is known to be a womanizer interacts with her.
What are you looking at? Focus!
It's also worth noting that the developers added jiggle physics to her breasts, which makes this scene stand out even more. So yeah, Tifa has been heavily sexualized throughout many of the games she's been featured in, besides her first appearance in the original game. Another argument I hear in defense of Tifa's redesign is that in terms of personality, Tifa was never a sexually open character, so her design should reflect that. And again, I gotta disagree. The reason being is that I don't think that just because a character wears provocative clothing, it automatically makes them a sexually active individual. Just look at all the female celebrities that wear revealing outfits at events, some of which, by the way, are currently dating or married. and you typically don't hear them, or the media for that matter, speaking ill will of them. It's just another form of expressing who they are. While some may look at this and think it's distasteful, many others, including myself, see it as a sense of confidence and control. And obviously this doesn't apply to just celebrities. You got women out there that are introverts but like to wear less clothing, similar to a tank top or a miniskirt. And the reason doesn't have to be sexual. It could be for a stylistic purpose, or maybe they just feel more comfortable in it compared to a long sleeve shirt and long jeans. I mean, I could go on and on and on possibilities. But you get my point. You can't necessarily tell if a person is a sexually active individual or a flirt just by their appearance alone. And in regards to Tifa specifically, I could see her argument if she felt uncomfortable in the clothing that she's wearing, or if she's a very shy individual, but Tifa is anything but shy and shows no signs of being uncomfortable in her original outfit in the original game. So yeah, wholeheartedly disagree on that. Another argument I hear in defense of Tifa's redesign is that it was done to be less sexist. This argument makes absolutely no sense to me because there are women out there that have Tifa's figure that exist. I mean, there are literally women out there with larger breasts than Tifa's that exist in our world. And to me, banning women with large breasts in fiction sends a bad message to women with that figure. So yeah, hard disagree on that one. One argument I hear more than any other was that this design change was done to make her more realistic. And after looking at her redesign, I have no idea how people can think this at all. I mean, isn't she supposed to be a skilled fighter? She looks like she's never, ever worked out a day in her life. I see no muscle definition on her arms or legs, and I hear people mentioning her abs like she's got a six-pack or something. What are they talking about? Yet you expect me to buy that she's able to punch robots through glass and kick monsters that are 10 times her size? I don't think so. And that's not even mentioning other characters, like how Barrett's gun never seems to run out of ammo. So yeah, this realistic argument falls apart the moment you start thinking about it at all. So those were the big arguments for Tifa's redesign. There was a couple of more, but the rest are a bit more nonsensical. Like one said, because they're a pair of virtual breasts, why should you care? Because it's a piece of fiction and not real, we shouldn't care that much about the changes that are made. That's the argument I heard. And I'm guessing the people that are saying this also don't get the literally hundreds of thousands of individuals that have issues with the Sonic redesign in the new live action movie. And it is the same thing, according to you who are making this argument, because Sonic, similar to Tifa, isn't real, so why should you complain? Who cares what the creators do? The dozens upon dozens of YouTube videos complaining about Sonic's new look, again, who cares? Not that big of a deal, not real, right? Do you see how silly that argument sounds? When you make changes to an established character, whether it be their physical appearance or their personality, people are going to have complaints. The final argument I'm going to bring up that I feel doesn't make much sense either is that they say you're not a real Final Fantasy VII fan for accepting this remake as it is. Now listen, I made a video on a fighting game called Blaze Blue Central Fiction, where I spend over 20 minutes talking about how it has some of the best single player content for a fighting game, and honestly still does this console generation. I also in that same video go over some of the mechanics in that game and lead to the fact that it's one of the most unique and complex fighting games ever made. And because of those reasons, particularly the latter, it has become my favorite fighting game at the time of this recording. However, I also feel the game has some glaring issues, one of them being some of the character designs. And while I think that most of them are great, there are a few that are lacking in originality. Schoolgirl? Really? And that's the thing. You can criticize a game for the flaws you feel it may have while still enjoying a game overall. And in regards to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there are things that I generally do like from what I've seen so far, such as the soundtracks used in the E3 trailer. And the bit I have heard sounds great. Overall, I am very disappointed with the changes they made to Tifa's redesign in the Final Fantasy VII Remake because I feel that it really wasn't necessary. I tried my best to counter-argue many of the points people made in defense of this redesign, and hopefully after watching this video you can understand why so many people are upset, since they absolutely have the right to be. And if you're someone who's watching this that doesn't care about the changes made to Tifa's redesign, or don't think it's that big of a deal, you also have the right to think so. That being said, it doesn't give those that don't care the right to belittle those with a different opinion from them, since there definitely is an argument to be made about this issue, as I just did, talking over 10 minutes in this video. Personally, I would be a lot more welcoming of Tifa if we got the design from her from the Dissidia Final Fantasy NT game. I say 90% because her breasts aren't as big as they were in the original, but it still stays true to the intent of the original design by being heavily sexualized, keeping the skin-tight skirt and tank top. But that's just my opinion though. Anyways, that just about wraps it up for this video, and thank you for watching.